Well, from the pros to high schools and colleges and youth sports, athletes are now returning to the field to get ready for their seasons. Whether it's a shortened MLB season or whether it's a high school football season, athletes need to get back in shape to be able to play their sports. But how do they do that after a long layoff, several months, and with the new health and safety rules the teams must follow? We're here to talk about getting athletes ready for their seasons is Ken Rusche. He is from Oxford Physical Therapy. Ken, how are you today?
Hey, doing well. Thanks, Betsy. Appreciate it.
Well, as we mentioned, this is a time that, we're finally seeing teams getting back to business, whether it's working out, whether it's getting ready to have a fall sport, or whether it's baseball that's going to have a pretty quick 2-3 week turnaround before they start playing games. The rules are different now and the rules are changing every day, but athletes are not used to having long layoffs. Even when it's the off season, usually they have a regimen that they go through. What do you think that this layoff from March until now means to athletes now that they're jumping back into their sport and trying to get ready for it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's really, from an injury standpoint, we really have to look at the professional level and whether it's the professional basketball or professional baseball. And I'll pick on baseball a little bit. Normally they have a pretty intensive spring training, and then they have a lot of exhibition games before they get into it. So they can essentially, hopefully they don't, but they can essentially, normally they'll go into spring training not being in very good shape, and that's how they'll get in shape. Now, there are some that are doing much better with that, but the problem that we're going to happen now is a couple things. First of all, they're just going to have a couple weeks of training, if you will, before they jump in. And then when they jump in, it's going to be a sprint. You get on a 5-game losing streak, it could be over. So you're going to have to win a lot of games, and you're going to have to win quick. And whether that's pitchers not doing a 5-person rotation or, designated hitters or whatever, there's a real high probability of a lot of soft tissue injuries is what I see. And as an athletic trainer, physical therapist, I feel that athletic trainer, physical therapist with that professional baseball team is going to be your most valuable player, if you will, right now. Because when you talk about soft tissue, it could be a pulled muscle, whether it's a hamstring or a quad, or maybe an abdominal core type of muscle. If you're throwing the ball a lot as a pitcher, it could be soft tissue around the shoulder. So it could be a bursitis, it could be a tendonitis. So, it's those guys that really stayed in shape the best that they could and actually worked out and did simulated type of things that they do in spring training are going to survive. But the real interesting thing is 60 games in 66 days. And it is a sprint, and you've got to win. So you're going to do whatever to win. So that's going to be interesting. And like I said, it's going to keep everybody busy and, keeping them in shape and trying to go from there.
Absolutely. And then we haven't even touched on all the safety precautions now the teams are going to be going through. Again, talking about MLB, besides a shortened season, it's going to be a compacted season in that you're going to kind of stay in your area. There's not going to be the West Coast swing anymore. You're going to be playing teams that are fairly close, that are going to be short drives, short flights. They're talking about probably having the umpires kind of stay in one area as well, so they're not traveling all over the place. But talk a little bit about some of the new precautions. Anything from the players can't spit, which may throw off everything in baseball. I'm not sure if they can play if they can't do that. You can't spit. They're going to throw out a baseball if too many people touch it. The game buffet is no longer there because it's going to have to be prepackaged. How reasonable and how realistic are some of these precautions, do you think, when they get into the season?
Yeah, well, I think, baseball has got a little advantage, if you will, over football or basketball. And I think with the rules that they're putting in place, those guys will be able to somewhat social distance in the locker room, the buffets. those types of things, the shorter trips, the shorter plane trips, those types of things. But, your big concern is after the game. And after the game, the guys and the other team, they like to go out to get dinner or whatever they want to do. And I think that's where the biggest problem is. And then if one of those guys come down with it or another comes down with it, what do we do? I'm really concerned seeing some of the high schools in this area where some of the guys have tested, high school football have tested, and they postpone until July 12th, July 13th. So that is a little bit of a concern. I was on the phone this morning to an athletic director at a university. It wasn't a big time university, but pretty good size university. And of course, they're very, very concerned. They're not sure, will football go or will football not go? And one of their big items is, a lot of these colleges are looking for the parents to sign off that, it's a risk. And if you get COVID, whatever, and, if a guy doesn't want to play due to the risk of COVID, then does he keep his scholarship or not? So that's a whole different can of worms when you look at that process. And that's, that's a lot. Who knows where that's all going?
Absolutely. And one of the things that I know some of the universities have been saying is that, in fact, there was a story in USA Today, basically these next 2 weeks may be the most important in college football.
Right.
Whether or not this can be contained, whether or not it's realistic. I think that especially the Division I across the board, whether it's the Power Five or some of the other divisions, unfortunately, they look at that as a moneymaker, support everything else, and they are going to try every way possible to get that team on the field and play a season. One thing that they've been talking about is maybe spring football. Give it a few more months. What do you think about that?
It's an interesting concept, but, a lot of the sports have postponed their seasons and they have done that. Boy, that would just be, that would be an interesting concept, because then you would go to the spring, and then if you jump into the next fall, and then you have the whole thing of injuries and surgeries and season-ending injuries, then they'll miss the whole next year. So I know it's just crazy times, and like you say, you just got to keep watching it. And what happens if a team in a conference? What happens if it really breaks out and they're unable to play, and then their schedule? So yeah, there's a lot of, and pretty much that's what the athletic director told me. He just said that, they're not sure what's going to happen and how it's going to happen.
Right. And it's not a question of if one of the players is going to be tested positive. It's a question of when. And as you mentioned, teams, college and high school, already have had players who have tested positive. So it's how do you react to that? But, we've been talking about the schools and professionals going back. A lot of us are now getting back out. There was a while that we couldn't get on a golf course, and now we can, and now we're kind of getting back into it. We as weekend athletes, we are not necessarily in the best shape after sitting around here. So what do you recommend that kind of the weekend warrior, what do you think that we should do to make sure that we don't get those pulled muscles and some of the aches and pains?
Yeah. It's been really interesting. It's just been amazing driving around since March, the number of people, the number of families that you see walking, that you see jogging, that you see on scooters, that you see biking. It's just incredible. And you're still seeing a lot. Of course, golf has record numbers right now, once, because they were able to open, so to speak, and they've got record numbers. So, I think a lot of people have been doing it for quite some time. And, you could have COVID weight loss because you really got into it. You had time to do it. Or you could have COVID weight gain because you just sat around and you ate. So there's a couple possibilities there, and then you're trying to get out. But, with the weekend warrior, the biggest thing is an overuse type of problem. It might be, a tendonitis, whether it's a tendonitis in a lower extremity or maybe a tendonitis in an upper extremity. It's amazing. We should have got stock in, we'll give an advertisement here, in Lowe's or Home Depot, because those stores, it was amazing how busy they were when everything was shut down. So I've heard more people do home projects and more people do their own landscaping and their mulch. And I've had all kind of people, hey, my back's really, really sore, or I got a little pain going down my leg and things like that, because these are things that they would have done gradually, or maybe they wouldn't have done at all. And that's the nice thing about physical therapy. And I don't know if a lot of people realize that you really don't need a referral to come into physical therapy, that there is a law in the state of Ohio and Kentucky called direct access. So if you hurt your back, if you hurt your arm, things like that, you can come into a physical therapist. And we actually do what we call a screen, and someone can come in and we can screen it. We can make recommendations if they need to see a doctor, if they can get started on physical therapy, their insurance will reimburse it and get them going from there. So the direct access law is really nice, because normally you might go see your family physician. He might refer you to an orthopedic physician. So that whole process could take several weeks. Then you go to your orthopedic physician and they might do an MRI, they might do an X-ray, they might give you a brace, they might do this, they might do that, where you could get started in physical therapy right now. Actually, your healthcare billing system will be reduced, because basically it's just physical therapy. We're not going to worry about the X-ray and the MRI. But if we see a red flag, then we're able to get you into an orthopedic physician, and we have enough connections around the city where we can get you into that person that's going to take good care of you, and they're going to get you in quickly. So really, physical therapist, we want to be your family physical therapist is what we want to be, and come in for those types of things, and we can give you guidance and go from there. So it's actually a great benefit, things we can do.
And if there's anything good that comes out of this, perhaps it is that more of us will be active and will go out and jog, right, and get into that habit, because that's the best thing that you can do for your mental and your physical health.
Oh, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal what exercise can do. And like I said, you're seeing a lot of overuse type of things because people never ran or never jogged. Now your marathon people, they've been doing it, they've been training, they're still pretty good. Mm-hmm. But it's your weekend warrior that goes out and decides to start a jogging program and has been out there every day running, and now they have an overuse problem. I have a good friend of mine that, walking is such a great activity, and a brisk walk is really, really good. And he's done 2.5 miles of brisk walk for the last couple of months. He's lost 40 pounds.
Wow.
And that's phenomenal. And so something like that can work. So we have to watch and not overdo it. But that's what we get. We get the overuse injuries, or, we're getting a lot of back type of issues from the home projects and the home landscaping type of things.
Well, congratulate your friend for his healthy journey.
Yeah, I
will.
That's
great to hear. That is awesome.
Yeah.
And Rusche from Oxford Physical Therapy, thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you, Bess. Have a great day.
You too.
Okay, bye.